have pictures and everything, don't we?
Yep.
Wow.
Right away. But now in 2 months, it'll be a little different.
All right, it is 3 o'clock. We will call the regular meeting of the Hutchinson Utilities Commission to order. Commissioners, do you have any conflict of interest to announce?
None.
None here either. We'll go right into the consent agenda. Anything you'd like to pull out of the consent agenda?
Not here.
I'm going to entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Fine.
And any opposed? All right, financial statements. Jeremy and Jared.
I don't have a whole lot, just wanted to mention, it looks a little weird that the usage is up but the revenue's down. That's because a year ago we charged a power cost adjustment. We were still in the threshold where we weren't charging this month, but we will probably be starting because we lowered below our PCA threshold of 400,000. So I'm assuming we'll start charging probably in February right away again. It's been probably about a year since we charged a PCA.
Okay.
Other than that, I don't have anything else.
I'll just touch on a few things. We've got some sales for resales now starting in January of 2024. We've got some additional money coming in on the gas side for the new customer on our pipeline. So you'll start seeing, that will start ticking up and will be higher than last year, 2023, just because of new customers. So you can kind of see that's about 82,000 up for this year, but that's going to be the big thing that's going to really change on that side. So just keep that in kind of front of you as you kind of look at financials month over month with that customer on. That's going to drive some significant revenue in that we hadn't had in the past. On the gas side, we're down about 8.2 million in CFs in the industrial class for January. Half of that was Minnesota Specialties yeast, and we touched a little bit on that. They were going to be down with a lot of their facility starting in December through March. On both sides, the gas and the electric are down. So we'll anticipate seeing that for the next 2 more months probably. But that was a significant reduction in usage there on the gas side. And then the other 4 million that were down, roughly 2.5 CF or a million CFs were from 3M. They're down this year relative to last year. And then the other big one was UFC, is down about 2 million in cubic feet sold. So between those 3 customers, that kind of makes up the big reduction on the industrial class. So otherwise, the other 2 classes we're tracking fairly consistent January over January. On the electric side, if you'll note, we're fairly consistent in sales for resales, although that's been made up of a couple different things month over month. Last year we had the tolling agreement in place. We didn't have that this year, but we ended up generating more market sales just by selling into the market. So overall, the sales for resales revenue is still in that 400,000 for the month, but it's just made up a little bit differently in how we collected revenue. On the flip side, when you look down, there's a couple things going on. Purchase power, that line item is down because we actually sold a little bit less power in the month of January. Although you'll notice our fuel costs are significantly up this year versus last year. So during that Martin Luther King holiday week, we ended up generating a lot. We had that cold stretch there. So we ended up generating a lot for our hedging and also some market sales. But what we ended up getting caught with over that holiday weekend is when the pricing settled the following week. I think it was Tuesday, I believe. We ended up getting caught with $35 gas that we ended up paying for. So one day in particular, January 14th, we incurred about $204,000 in natural gas cost. So we've had that a couple times over the years. If some of you guys have been around, we had that during some of the polar vortex and some of those months where we hit these holiday weekends. And we have to nom going into the holiday weekends, but then the pricing doesn't settle till the following week. So we get caught again with that. We did have some force majeures going on kind of around the Midwest, which is the cold stretch. One, capacity was constrained on the transmission pipelines, and we've talked about that in the past. And then some of the drilling rigs and some of the areas where they were production froze. So we had kind of that similar thing going on again with some of that real cold stretch. So that's why you'll see the anomaly on the fuel, why the fuel costs are significantly up in January. Is we had some high-priced fuel during that month, during those couple days. And then on the large general side, we're down just on consumption or kilowatt hour sales. that 524,000, that's pretty much all Minnesota East in that class. So if you take that anomaly out, you know, we were just on pace with being pretty close to our January usage for all of our classes for the most part. As Jared mentioned, we didn't have a power cost adjustment in January, but we did. If you look at the cash and designation reports, we pulled $320,000 out of the rate stabilization fund. So that was a significant amount taken out. So I think we're down to about $180,000 in that fund now, which is below our threshold, as he just mentioned. So, you know, we have February is a higher priced month because it's still winter months. So we still have the winter wholesale rates in place. So we'll have that at least for another 2 more months, March and February. April, we'll get into the spring rates where it's a little bit cheaper from our wholesale supplier, but I would anticipate us seeing, you know, some of those power costs probably getting on, as like he had mentioned, sooner than probably later. Otherwise, the only other thing that I kind of noted, operating expenses is down this year about $60,000 for the month. The big thing in there was we ended up having put in a voltage regulator on Unit 1 last year. We had some consulting services to put that piece of equipment in. So that was $58,000. So that was something that we added to the equipment last year that we didn't have this year. So that's why you see the operating expense variance down from last year. Otherwise, I think that was it for the most part. Yeah, so any questions kind of on January year over year, kind of where we're at?
Good explanations there, thank you. Entertain a motion to approve the financial statements.
I'll make a motion to approve financial statements.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Kathy and second by Matt. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next on the agenda is the open forum. I don't see any guests here today, so we'll go into communication, starting with Matt from the city.
Good afternoon, everyone. A couple things. Council authorized going out for bids on the lighting project at VMF. I know it's something that Hutch Utilities are partnering with us on, and then they did award the bid for a new grandstand at VMF too. So that work will be done this fall. And the city's just in the middle of strategic planning. So that's it.
So all the field upgrades will take place after baseball season, is that their plan?
Yeah.
Looked like the lighting project bid opening was March 20th, I saw in the minutes.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay.
So,
Good. Any questions for Matt? All right, thank you. Divisions. Dan?
Nothing today. I don't have anything today.
All right.
The tuck pointing project is going to start much earlier than we anticipated. They had called last week, and we're hoping to start at the end of this week. This cold weather has now pushed their project that they're currently finishing up out a little bit, so they will be on site next week, and they'll start on phase 2 of the tuck pointing at plant 2. So just working with Dan to kind of coordinate that. The first couple of weeks will be kind of slow starting, but then once that gets rolling, then we'll end up taking plant 1 because we don't want to get any grit from the tuck pointing into the engine. So we'll take the plant in those couple weeks when they're grinding and cutting, and other than that, that's all I got.
How long is that supposed to take?
I would say probably 4 to 5 weeks, guessing.
Okay.
It's gonna be a little bit slower just because they gotta do a lot of scaffolding work this time, where the north side they did everything out from lifts and stuff. But with all the, it's very tight working quarters in the back, so I think it's gonna be slower going. And they got to, they're gonna be breaking in some openings. We're removing some stuff that no longer needs to be in the building, so
Okay.
we'll be filling in some openings that are there, so.
All right.
I'm gonna say the 5-week mark, so.
All right. Thank you. John?
We have some pipeline emergency responder training tomorrow night in Olivia as part of our, what's called CARE, Community Awareness Emergency Response Program that we're in. We go trained up and down the pipeline every year, so tomorrow night's our last meeting finally. And then in about a week and a half or 2 weeks, we start our audits, our MinOps safety audits are going to start. We have a new inspector this year, so looking forward to it.
It's always fun.
All right.
It'll not only be Hutchinson and Broughton, but it'll also be Heartland Corn as well.
Oh, okay.
So it'll be a challenge.
Well, good luck.
We'll make it.
I
Good.
don't have anything.
All right. Angie.
I'm just working on a couple of salary surveys for a couple of our surrounding areas.
Okay. Mark, anything today?
Nothing today.
All right, back to you, Jeremy.
Just a few things, starting the process with Q market research to get our annual surveys out to our residential customers and our commercial. So the girls up front have been providing some of the data and some of the things that they need to send out emails and letters and different things. So that's going on. We anticipate getting results probably by May or June-ish, probably somewhere in there. So started that process with those guys to keep that moving forward. We're going to be backfilling some positions here in the organization. We've got a natural gas welder position. We've got a backfill on that came back open. And then up front, we're going to have a customer service rep leaving as well. She's going to be retiring here in the next few months. And so we're in the process of gathering applications and going through those. So we'll be backfilling some positions here over the next several months. So we'll be working on quite a bit of that stuff to make that happen. Just keeping up the legislative items that have been going on. APPA had their legislative rally in Washington, D.C. this week, Monday through today. So there are a lot of our counterparts who are there representing MMUA as a board. And then a month from now, the state legislative rally for MMUA will be going on. So there's a lot of that stuff going on. I'm meeting with federal legislators, local legislators to make sure, that they have public power in mind when they're looking at energy-related bills and topics and things of that nature. And I've kind of given you guys general updates of kind of what things are kind of the hot button items, at least locally during this legislative session. And a lot of that's kind of similar stuff at the federal level with permitting reform and things like that. So.
Do you attend that?
I did not attend either of them this year because they happened to be during this week, which is why I have a lot of board meetings this week, i.e. one of these. So I did not go. 4 of the board members from MMUA did go. Our president couldn't make it either. They're running, she's from Grand Rapids. They had some water issues up there, so she couldn't go. But still a good cross-section of the board. Went to the APPA rally. I would say there was probably 45 from Minnesota that went out and met with a lot of the other state agencies at the federal level. And then the latest I heard at MMUA, there's probably about 30 from Minnesota going to the Minnesota legislative rally. It typically is the week before ours, before our board meetings in March. But the MREAs, the rural co-ops, were going to be down there that same week. And so from our perspective, we said it wasn't good to have both the co-op association and the Minnesota municipals there at the same time trying to compete for people. So they ended up moving it back. So there's a few people on the MMUA board that couldn't make it because it conflicts with a lot of their board meetings. So,
Sure.
But I think they still got 80% of the board to go. So
Okay.
me and a couple other board members just can't make it because of other things. So, but still a good turnout on that. And then I'll send you guys some updates kind of on the cash flow modeling, some of the financing structure. So I'll start working on bringing some options forward for that here in the next several months, just to kind of give you guys an idea of what options we have as we move forward with some of those projects. And I know we're talking about the LM 6000, and that was part of that updated cost structure that I gave you guys. So just kind of working on those things in the short term here.
All right, very good, thank you. Next, we have policies. Looks like we had nothing for review. Review exempt handbook and non-exempt handbook, but no changes there. And then changes on the equal employment opportunity policy.
Yep.
Guessing
So-
that's yours, Angie.
Yeah, thank you. We just have one change with that. Well, there's a few changes within the policy, and it is changes that kind of mirror what the League of Minnesota City also shows in their policy, so adding in more verbiage of what we're not going to discriminate against, so.
All right. Any questions for Angie on policy change?
I'll make a motion to approve the policy changes presented.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Matt and second by Kathy. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Unfinished business is next, which we do not have any of. So new business, we have approval of the 3M natural gas transportation and daily swing supply agreement. Guessing that's you, John.
It is, thank you. 3M's agreement, their current agreement expires March 1, so it's, we do it again. It's just, basically it's the same agreement except we've updated. The rates stayed the same except for their meter cost. That was changed to the new cost as provided by our rate review. And I just ask that you approve it.
All right, long-standing agreement that we've had with 3M, so.
Long time.
Any questions for John?
None.
I'll make a motion to approve 3M's natural gas transportation and daily swing supply agreement.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Kathy and second by Matt. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have approval of the natural gas facilities maintenance agreement with the City of Fairfax. Back to you, John.
Sorry. City of Fairfax has requested that Hutchinson Utilities maintain their interconnect station, their district rank stations at Fairfax and Gibbon, as well as their block valves on their, they call it a distribution line. So we'll do that for them again. They need help.
All right. Any questions for John on this one?
I'll make a motion to approve natural gas facilities maintenance agreement with the City of Fairfax.
Second.
All right, motion by Matt and second by Kathy. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, approval of the HTI TDK amendment to the natural gas transportation agreement.
Last one. And I don't understand this very well myself, but Hutchinson Technology, or HTI TDK, has been purchased by a holding company. I believe it's the way it's working over there now. So we just need to amend their agreement to allow the bills to be sent to Highland Park Industrial LLC, located in Denver, Colorado.
So that's interesting, okay. So no changes, just who is going to be paying the bills is a little bit different.
Basically.
Correct.
Okay. Any questions for John on this one?
None.
I'll make a motion to approve the third amendment to natural gas transportation agreement.
Second.
All right, motion by Kathy and second by Matt. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, next we have approval of requisition 009834, 2024 GMC 1500 pickup purchases. Dan?
Yeah, we have two that are scheduled to be replaced this year. Just basic bare bones pickups, no service bodies or anything like that. So both for production department. The other ones are going away, are 10 years old, same thing, just two basic base model pickups.
Okay. Are they getting easier to locate and purchase?
They're on state, these are on state bid, so that's a good
Okay.
there. You know, for a while that was pretty touch and go, but these are out there. We can get them ordered hopefully in the next few weeks, and then after that it gets on hold again until 25 models come out. So it'll be this fall before we'll be able to order again, because
Okay.
the manufacturer shut down, or not shut down, but start switching to the next model year. So we're hoping to get these early this year, get it done with.
So you're ordering, but you're not exactly sure when they'll come in either.
Yeah.
Or what price they'll be.
All right.
I think they quoted, what was it again, 140 to 210 days.
I saw that.
That's 7 weeks and 2 months. That's about right.
Okay.
It just seems odd.
No.
Can't just go up to Valley and buy one? I'll make a motion to approve requisition 009834 for the 2024 GMC pickups.
Second.
Okay, motion by Matt and second by Kathy to approve the pickup purchases. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Let's see, next we have implementing a protective safety footwear policy. Angie.
Thank you. So we are looking at instituting a formal safety footwear policy. Currently, we do have a couple of areas that do receive safety footwear that is required for their jobs. But the safety committee, MMUA coordinator, we all got together and have been having discussions for about the last 6 months on actually putting in a formal footwear policy for multiple divisions here. So this would include the electric division, natural gas division, production, our electricians, and the inventory position that we have out there too. So we also did look at multiple different organizations in the surrounding areas just to kind of see what they do as well, and then based on all of that feedback, we came up with this policy. So we're looking at instituting that.
Okay, so the cost listed on here is the purchase of the
Safety footwear.
Okay.
For yearly footwear, along with every 3 years for winter insulated footwear as well. And like I said, currently there are some departments, a couple of departments that do already get this, but this would be for all the divisions that I listed as well.
Okay.
So.
And is the dollars the same as what you've currently got in place for those?
Yes,
divisions?
yep, there's a range, so it kind of ranges
Up
between
to?
175, 250, and it'll be something that we'll look at yearly, just to kind of go with the cost of inflation and
Yep.
what we might need to increase it by.
Okay.
But we were kind of using an average and kind of getting to that max if we could, so.
Okay. Any questions for Angie on this?
I
None.
make a motion to approve implementing a protective safety footwear policy.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Kathy and second by Matt to approve the protective safety footwear policy. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next we have discussion on non-union grid movement. Jeremy?
So this was brought back onto the agenda for February. I did provide you guys what a 5% grid shift would look like relative on one side, and the 4% is what you guys approved and is in the adopted 2024 budget. If you guys want to just kind of see the general ranges, obviously they all go up 1% on the mid, and max. But part of the conversation with the board was as we were going through the union contract, when we finally settled on what those contract pay increases or wage increases are going to be over that 3-year contract, the board wanted to come back and at least have a discussion about moving the grid, commensurate with what the union contract was settled on, if it was something higher than the 4% grid shift that we adopted in December. So we wanted to make sure that in January's meeting that it was officially approved by the commission here and put in place, that it was signed off on by both parties before it was entertained and brought back. So today in front of you at the February meeting, I put that back on the agenda, talking with President Martinez to make sure that that conversation was happening with the board, that it didn't get lost, that it was put there. So I did provide you guys just some general information on really the fiscal impact. Would only really affect one employee in the non-union side by moving the grid 1%. I am not recommending that we would do any type of budget amendment on that, because we're going to be able to absorb that in our wages and salaries budget. So I think the current adopted budget we have in place is fine. I don't think we need to do anything with that. So it really then just comes down to the conversation, discussion with the board on if you're willing to or interested in moving it the 5% to kind of mirror the 5% wage increase that the union has. So.
Yeah, I think, excuse me. I guess I don't see a reason why we wouldn't.
No.
I mean, especially remind us what the second and third years for the union negotiations, that we shouldn't have to, is this an annual thing?
This is an annual, yep.
Yeah.
You guys have to move the pay grade every year, so. And the 3-year wage increase on the union side, it was 5%, 4.5%, 4%.
Yeah.
So, I'll bring forward next year, going into 2025 season, in a preliminary budget. I'll give you all the indicators that you guys look at as far as moving the grid, and then you guys obviously will have a conversation, make a decision on how much you want to move the grid relative to market indicators, what's going on with the contract,
Right.
those things. So that does come back in front of you every year.
From my perspective, it makes sense to keep things equitable as far as movement, for all of the staff of the utility. If you don't, I think it just sends the wrong message and ends up in a bad place, so. I don't have any problem with us moving the grid the additional 1%.
So if you don't move it, will people start falling off it again?
No, they won't fall off it. I mean, obviously the people that are at the top of the range, they get, you know, the less you move the grid, the more they're restrained by the percent increase they can get based on performance.
Right.
So that's the big kind of thing from that end. And we've got, you know, half of our non-union employees are at the top of the range. So the max increase I think it is only what you guys move the grid, and they're a good performer. And then the other half are somewhere either at midpoint, somewhere, you know, we have one or two at kind of the bottom of the pay range on their grade. And, it's, you know, so they're kind of sprinkled amongst kind of some other areas along their level, their pay grade. So.
So we had a list on the agenda is discussion. Are we looking for an actual vote on that today?
Yeah, if you could, if you guys are
I think
comfortable.
we should, because I can't speak for Anthony or Bob, but I can't see the.
Yeah. I did hear from Anthony. He's in favor of the movement. Bob, I did not hear from. So.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah, I think we should vote on it.
All right. Well, then let's bring that up for a vote. Anyone care to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to raise the, so I say this right, raise the pay grid,
The non-union grid.
non-union grid, I should say, to the 5%, as presented by Jeremy.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right. Motion by Matt and second by Kathy to adjust the non-union pay grid an additional 1%. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
And last on the agenda today, we have approve additional cost of NSR work for Unit 1. Mike.
Yep, so you guys had authorized General Manager Carter for approval up to $700,000 for the NSR work. Asking for another $300,000, which will put us at that $1 million mark for NSR work. So that's what I'm initially asking for, and then an overall update on kind of where we're at. The balance piston was one of the items we've been waiting to hear back on if it was repairable or not, and it is. GE will have it back in their hands on 4/1, and they also confirmed that the mid shaft will be repairable, and they're working on a quote back. And they kind of gave a price range that I added to the board action form as well, in the $30,000 to $45,000 range. So that should fit into this $300,000 that we're asking for additionally here. Should, as long as they don't keep slamming us with NSRs. And then the only thing we're waiting on is they have some concerns on the time frame on how long the repair is going to take. So that's the only thing
So
that
do
we're
we.
waiting on. Yeah. So they're pushing on the vendor that will do the repair. So we're trying to make all this happen yet.
Okay.
Nothing is saying it's not happening yet, but it's getting kind of close to where we want to be. But yeah, so I guess at this point we're just looking for that additional $300,000 of approval for General Manager Carter.
So this is the multiple times we've done this. So one thing I just want to ask, what happens if we don't?
We don't prove that they stop.
Right.
They stop doing the repairs, or they don't put those things in there. Like I said, some of the stuff that I kind of mentioned to you guys too, you know, some of these things that came up, some of these bearings, these rollers, I mean, they're essentially telling us if we don't replace these and we bring them back up here, you're gonna not pass the test, the run test, which then that creates other issues from an insurance standpoint for us, because they're not gonna insure that piece.
So really, we don't have an operational machine.
Correct.
If we don't do these things.
Right.
It seems like we're getting towards the end here, though. Is that accurate? Or am I?
We keep talking
I
about
would
things.
rather not answer that question. I feel like I've answered that multiple times,
Sure.
and I keep asking for more money. So I'm gonna try not to answer it this time. But yes, no,
I think the mid shaft was like.
I would
That's
say
kind of the
for
big
that one?
question.
I would say we're getting close.
Okay.
So one thing we've learned is it's very expensive to fix a 30-year-old engine.
Yeah.
That type of engine too.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, I sent you guys that spreadsheet or the workbook that you know, Mike and I are looking at as far as all the things that they identify that are outside of the GE's specs, and you can see how exhaustive that list is with all the things that just are outside of that. So, I mean, that's part of the challenge from a staff standpoint is, and the consulting is picking and choosing what things absolutely are needed and what things still make the engine functional that doesn't create any issues. And so, you know, that's part of the time is just kind of weeding through all that stuff.
And this increase in expense still falls within kind of the range you had kind of forecasted at the beginning.
Correct. When we originally went into this project, we said this project's probably going to be in the $2 million range. You know, just based on what we knew about the oil leak and some of the, and the repairs and the cost of some of these things on these turbines. You know, they're just super expensive. They're great because you can get a lot of generation and output out of these things in a small footprint, but when you have to repair them or you have major overhauls, you're in the millions of dollars on those things. So it still keeps us, you know, right now, right, like I mentioned to you guys in the email, we're right at about 1.7 million. That's what I've got in the cash flow model. Even if we get up, which I don't think we will, but we get up to that 2 million, that's still in the range that we had estimated that this project was probably going to be. Because we knew there was this, when they started pulling this engine apart, that there were going to be other things that they found that you know, they're recommending that need to get replaced to keep it functional for at least the next 7 years that we have through these capacity contracts. So.
Any other questions?
I'll make a motion to approve additional costs of NSR work for Unit 1.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Kathy and second by Matt. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Be nice to get that thing back.
Sooner than later.
Correct.
I believe that concludes the agenda.
Motion to adjourn?
I will second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Thanks.